Hello everyone, welcome back to the YouTube channel of Lightway Research and Technology Center. In this video we are going to look at how to check, remove or reduce plagiarism. How to check, how to remove or how to reduce plagiarism. So the first thing you need to do anytime you receive your plagiarism report is to scroll down to see the overall rate. So you go down, yes, this is the plagiarism report, and this is what you are going to print and present to your department or your supervisor or anybody that requests for it. You can see it is written boldly here, originality reports, and this is the name of the document, literature review paper 2. If you look at it very well, you will notice that we have 4 different scores here, or 4 different rates. The first one is the similarity index, which is the overall. This comprises of this, and this. This 45% is your paper's plagiarism rates. Now to check the originality rates of this particular paper, what we just need to do, or what you just need to do, is to subtract 45 from 100%. So when you subtract 45 from 100%, you have 55%. So the originality rate of this particular paper is 55%. But Turnitin does not stop at that. It also provides information about sources of this particular plagiarism. And the sources are categorized into 3. The first is the internet sources, second is publications, and the third is student papers. These internet sources comprise of websites, blogs, and so on and so forth, while publication include articles, papers published in journals, whether local or international journals. Student papers, however, include theses, projects, any recognized works that is not published in a journal. All those papers are categorized under student papers. So now what Turnitin is trying to tell us here is that your work, the rate at which your work is similar to others is 45%, and the rate at which your work is similar to information on the internet is 40%, while for publication is 37%, and student papers is 90%. But this internet sources, publications, and student papers should not be your focus. You should focus on this similarity index because it is the overall rate. So the goal is to either remove this 45% or reduce it to maybe 15% or 25%. There are institutions that use 25%, some use 15%. I will explain why later. So now what should be your focus is how to reduce this particular 45% to something below 30% or 20%. Now if you go through the documents, you will notice that there are different colors, and those colors are numbered. If you look at this particular color, it carries 3. The same thing here. This one is a different color, and the number attached to it is what? 18. Another color is 50%. This one is 50%. 50, not 50%. Why this one is 1? What I'm trying to say here is that the different colors means that there are different websites or sources from which the information in this particular document was obtained. So now your role is to match this color or number with the sources. So you just need to scroll down and look at the sources. You can see this is number 1. So if you click on this, assuming I'm in Turnitin platform now, once I click on this, it will take me to the paper. Then I will be able to see the part of the paper that is similar to this particular paper. But I am not concerned about this particular paper. It is not my responsibility to even look at them. What I'm concerned with is how to paraphrase or rewrite this particular document so that it will not be similar to the other information on the internet. So if you look at this particular red color, it carries 1. So anywhere you see 1 in the document, look at this 1 1 1 1 1. So what Turnitin is trying to tell us here is that this information or this content was obtained from these particular documents, or the content labeled 1 is similar to the content in this particular paper. Now look at 2. You can see the color. Then if you go through the documents, you will see the color as well as 2 attached to it. Let us look for 2. Okay, this is 3. We must have 2 there. Okay, this is 2. You can see this is 2. This is 2. So what it means is that this particular content is similar to the information in this document. The same thing is applicable to other sources. But you need to take note of something. Sometimes there are some things that you will write yourself and you will just be surprised that such information is already on the internet. You shouldn't be surprised. Number 1 is that the way you are thinking, others must have thought in that line, and of course put down something that is similar to what you just conceived. Another thing is that maybe the material you use for your paper, they also use the same material for their paper or their papers. So since you and others obtain your idea from the same paper, there is a higher probability that you may write something similar. And it is because of this particular issue that makes institutions, universities to at least adjust to either 15%. That's why they allowed 15% rate or 25% rate or 30% rate. They are aware that, okay, what you are writing, others might have written something similar. So they give room for a minor percentage, which is a minor percentage of similarity, which could be 15%, 25%. So you need to find out from your department what is the acceptable plagiarism rate. So if the acceptable plagiarism rate is 25% or 15% for your department or your school or your faculty, then you need to ensure that you paraphrase or rewrite any content or information highlighted in your document. I believe my information, what I'm trying to say is clear. So anytime you see something like 1% or 0.1% point zero something percent here, like all this less than 1%, you can see yes, less than 1%, less than 1%, they are just general thing. It's you might not really copy the information from other people. It's just that the way you are thinking, others have thought in that line and they have written something similar. So all this 1%, less than 1%, sorry, pardon me, all this less than 1%, they are allowed. And by the time you add everything together, it is not expected that you have above 15% or 25%. So as I said earlier, you need to first find out from your department or your faculty the acceptable plagiarism rate. So once you know the acceptable plagiarism rate, your duty is to work on your own research paper or your thesis projects, whatever it may be. You paraphrase the contents and ensure that you achieve something below 15%, if 15% is the highest for your department. But if 25% is the highest, then you make sure you achieve something below 25%. So that's about color or the numbering in the numbers in the document. Another thing I also want you to take note is that Turnitin gives room for the exclusion of quoted words as well as references. You can see the references here are not highlighted. It is, yes, all the references were not highlighted. So when you want to check your paper, you make sure you exclude references. In fact, this is the standard. References must be excluded. So the first thing you need to do when you are setting up your Turnitin for plagiarism stuff is to exclude Turnitin. Another thing is the quoted words. So you need to ask from your department, or in fact you don't even need to ask. Any sentence that is in quotation should be excluded. But if your institution or your department insists that quotation must not be excluded, then you have nothing to do with that. So you just have to what? Leave it the way it is. But if your department or your school is silent about exclusion of quoted words, then you just go ahead and exclude it, so that will reduce the similarity index. So always watch out for the references as well as the quoted words. So now, when you have issues with your paper, I mean when the similarity index is higher than the acceptable rate or the threshold for your department, you need to work on it. And you can do two things. It's either you bring it down to zero, which is somehow impossible, or you reduce it. So the best thing is just to work on the reduction. Don't think of removing it in total, because when you are thinking of removing it, you'll be forced to use AI. And when you use AI, it will also increase the AI rates, and it doesn't make sense. In fact, there are so many disadvantages of using AI. So in our center, we don't advise the use of AI for plagiarism reduction. The best is to sit down, read, then paraphrase. Just take your time. Take your time, go through the highlighted words. For instance, the first page here, you can see the impact of energy sucks on these days race, you can see that these words were highlighted. That means Turnitin assumed that we copied these particular words from somewhere. So what you just need to do is to paraphrase. You understand? You just paraphrase, and when you want to paraphrase, you need to look for synonyms of the words that are highlighted in your paper. For instance, here we can use, instead of impacts, we can use effects. So when we change this to effects, this particular one will not be highlighted again. A plethora of literature abound in exploring the impact of energy source on productivities and inflationary rates on country-specific and multi-country approach. So you can just paraphrase and say that there are extant literature on the influence of energy source or energy fluctuation, energy price fluctuation on productivity and inflation. You can see now that rates has been excluded. Also, instead of the impact, I use influence. Instead of shocks, I use what? Fluctuations. So once you do that, you will not have issue. By the time you check again, the words will not be highlighted. And look at this second one that is numbered 18. For instance, this explored time-variant parameter factor autoregressive model in analyzing the effects of crude oil prices and monetary policy on China's economy from January 1996 to June 2017. So just sit down and paraphrase, or you rewrite this particular sentence from here. For instance, okay, yes, a time variant. You can just say that these particular persons, these guys, analyzed the nexus instead of the effects. The nexus between energy price, you can see crude oil price has been deleted. Energy prices and monetary policy. By the time you exclude this, the effects of crude oil, monetary policy will not be highlighted again. So you can just say effects of analyze the nexus between crude energy prices and monetary policy. Okay, sorry, is energy price and monetary policy. Yes, you can just say it analyzes the nexus between energy prices and China economy. Also, they looked at, or they examined the impacts of monetary policy on, instead of China economy, you can just say the gross domestic products of China. Then between January 1996, or from January 1996 to June, these particular days, once you paraphrase this, this will certainly not be highlighted again. So the first thing you need to do is to paraphrase, then you look at synonym. Instead of effects, you can use impact, you can use influence, you can change the narration and say nexus. So by the time you paraphrase everything, then the similarity index will decline, it will reduce. And look at this one numbered 50, you can say, and submitted that international crude oil price has both positive and negative shocks. So instead of saying crude oil price, you can just say energy or price of crude oil, yes. So by the time you bring price to the back and crude oil remain, you have But once you do that, you will certainly beat the software. So instead of saying international crude oil price, you say price of crude oil. You can just take away international. You understand? Or you use global. But international is not even an issue. Just the price of crude oil in the international market. So instead of saying positive, you can say plausible. You can use direct. You understand? You instead of for negative, you can use adverse shock. So once you change the words, you will not have issue with Turnitin again. And here specifically it was revealed that the shock has positive effects in the short run, while the effects in the long run shown a distinct results depending on the prevailing economic reality. So if you look at that paper one now, if you look at it, you will see that the author also mentions something like this: in the short run, the effect in the long run. You will see the words follows like this. So Turnitin will certainly assume that you lifted those words from that particular paper. So now, instead of you to say, oh, I want to use AI, you just sit down and say, instead of saying in the short run, you can say in the short, okay, positive effects in the short run, while the effects in the long run shown a distinct result. Okay, instead of mentioning short run first, you can focus on long run. First, present the result for long run, then you paraphrase that of short run. Or you can look for a way to summarize. In fact, that is another way to beat Turnitin plagiarism software. If your story is too much and you notice that there are some sentences that do not add value to that paper, you just take them away. Focus on the major issue. In fact, there are some reviewers that, if you look at journals now, they will give you numbers of words. You must not exceed so numbers. So nobody is after your story. The point, particularly when you are analyzing, when you are looking at real world issue, um not you are not a storyteller. Of course you need to tell stories. In fact, when you are discussing results, you need to tell stories. You need to make reference to issues that happen in that particular economy you are trying to look at. But when you are working or writing your introductions, just make sure you focus on that point and cite relevant papers. So if you want to critique my position, you need to first go and critique those papers I cited. So when you cite 2-3 papers to back up your claim, the reviewers or the whosoever that is looking at your paper will be convinced that you know what you are saying. So instead of writing so much story, you just need to look at your document again, take those things that are not very important. In fact, before you sit down and paraphrase, the first thing before you sit down and say you want to paraphrase your documents or you want to rewrite, first brush through your documents, look at those things that are not relevant, just take them away. Once you summarize like 3 paragraphs, you compress it to 2. You have like 5 paragraphs, you compress it to 3. By the time you finish that, try and check again. You will certainly notice that the similarity index has declined. So once you achieve that, then you cannot sit down and be doing what I'm just explaining there. You paraphrase, you rewrite. So because one of the reasons we don't recommend AI to our clients is because sometimes AI introduce strange words. There are some words that AI will introduce that will not just flow with what you are writing. So it is better. In fact, if you use AI, you still need to sit down, but that's double work. So why not sit down, focus on the synonym, just look at the words they arrange. If you notice that 5 or 10 words follow, make sure you twist it in such a way that those words will not follow each other. Once you are able to beat, or you are able to rearrange the words, you use synonyms to replace certain words, you bring those things that are the last, you bring it back, those words will not follow, and Turnitin will not be able to match it with any other source on the internet. So now, when you have your plagiarism reports, you have gone through the scores, the similarity index, you have gone through the numbers, you have matched it to the different sources. First thing, read through, take away those things that are not that relevant. Of course, you may think they are relevant, but by the time you read and read, you bring it down. Maybe from 100 pages, you bring it down to like 80, 70 pages. Once you achieve that, then you sit down, look for synonyms of certain words, replace those words, look for the sentences highlighted, sit down, rearrange, paraphrase. You are done. Before you know, you are done. So please don't make use of AI, because it may put you in trouble. Of course, if you know your way, you can use it, but it is not the best. So now let us look at another one. Look at this particular one. 20. Investigating the nexus between inflation and the economic and the macroeconomic variables, such as outputs, trade balance. So instead of such as, you can use including outputs. So instead of outputs, you can use GDP, that's gross domestic products. That is if you are looking at the economy as a whole. Trade balance, you can just say trade. Once they look into the paper, they will know what you are saying. Unemployment. So now you can say, okay, investigating the effects of inflation on macroeconomic variable, including gross domestic products, trade, or including unemployment. Take unemployment from the back, bring it here. Unemployment, trade balance, and outputs. So instead of using crude oil, you make use of energy price. Using a UK monthly data, you can say using a monthly data. Of course, this UK, you can just bring it here. Investigating the impacts of inflation on United Kingdom macroeconomic variable. So you take this away. This monthly data, you can, yes, you can maintain this. By the time you rearrange this, this will not be highlighted again. That's what I want you to know. Then instead of from, in fact, you can bring this one to the beginning, or you bring it here, such as this. You bring it here. You can be silent about all this macro. When you say macroeconomic variable, you will certainly mention them when you are discussing the results. So you can just take away output, trade balance, and unemployment here. Just make sure these 2 points, 3 lines, you take it to maybe 2 lines. For instance, you cannot say this man analyzed the impacts or the effects of inflation on the United Kingdom macroeconomic variable using a monthly data sets between January 2010 and June 2022. So by the time you paraphrase this, this will not be highlighted again. The reason why Turnitin picked all these things as plagiarized content is because they follow, the way they follow here, they follow in other documents. So it will just pick it as plagiarized document. So by the time you paraphrase this, you will be surprised that this will not be highlighted again. So that is how to remove or reduce plagiarism. Please take notes. It is somehow impossible to remove plagiarism, and that's why institutions allow 15% or 25%. So you need to find out from your institution. So in summary, when you immediately you receive your plagiarism reports, scroll down, look at the similarity index, then go through the sources, match the sources with the colors in the contents. So once you notice that your plagiarism, your similarity index is very high, first go through the whole document, take away those things that are not that relevant, that are not important, they are not core, they are not key to your research. Take them away, reduce the number of pages, you check again, then you know the overall similarity in there. So once you have the overall similarity in there, you can now sit down and rewrite, paraphrase. So if you want to use AI, if you know your way, you can of course use AI. There are many. Just check AI for paraphrasing on the internet. You will certainly see several of them, but they have several disadvantages as well. One of it is that they may introduce strange words in your work, and by the time somebody, maybe your external supervisor, is going through it and sees that, oh, what is this particular word finding there, we know that okay, this guy used AI. Another thing is that it will increase the AI rates, because look at how plagiarism reports. This is the output. You can see this is the title, this is the word counts, this is the similarity index, the 45 you are seeing there. So if, assuming this guy, the guy that sent this particular document, use AI, now from here I will know, of course this is not always true, but when you see that the AI is around 40 something percent, 50 something percent, you should know that the author used AI, or the author picked the main idea from one AI software. So when you use AI now, for instance, the plagiarism AI rate here is 0%. Let me say 0%. By the time you use AI to paraphrase this document, this thing will jump from 0 to maybe 40 or 50%, which is not good. So it is advisable that you sit down, go through the documents, take away those things that are not core, sit down again, paraphrase, look for synonyms of certain words, replace those words with the synonyms, I mean the highlighted words, then paraphrase, you rewrite. At the end of the day, you will have a very good or higher originality rates. The originality rates of your paper will increase, and you'll be able to build the software. So thank you for following us to this particular point. Please, if you have not been part of this great community, kindly take your time to subscribe. Also like this video. Please share the video with your friends, your colleagues, and anyone that you think will be interested in it.